Well, hello there, ladies and gents. Great to see you again, and welcome back to Game Changers, the lessons you never learned in school. Ryan Ruff here, your moderator, but as always, we've got Barry Garapedian standing by. Of course, Barry leading the team over at Mag 7 Consulting. We're going to be jumping into yet another profound lesson you certainly didn't learn in school, and really today's a special one. It's a culmination, our finale, if you will, of season one here on Game Changers, and we're really going to put a cherry on top of what's been a great season, and that is Barry's most valuable secret. We saved a good one to the end, folks. So happy to have you joining us here today. Before, of course, we get into the nitty gritty of the secret itself, let's go ahead and say hey to the man of the hour. Barry, great to see you. How you doing?
Ryan, it is absolutely wonderful to be here. Looking forward to a great session.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, why don't you frame things up for us today? I just mentioned, hey, we're diving into one of your most valuable secrets. I know this is one you'd like to give away often, but it is a great one. Barry, frame things up. What are we talking about today?
So, Ryan, one of the narratives that I've lived by for decades is it's the books you read and the people you meet. And today we're going to talk about a strategy on how to cultivate the people you meet. And this has been done I started this in 1982. I know, 40 years ago. So I've been doing this a long time, and I'm going to share this strategy. And the strategy is called Profiles in Success. And we're going to dive into it. And I'm going to take your cue where we want to go.
Yeah. So in staying high level, because it helps to paint the broad picture before we get into the weeds of it all. Why is this idea of profiles of success and leveraging this idea? And of course, we'll describe what it is for folks, but why is it just so important in, staying broad here?
Ryan, it's one simple thing. It differentiates you from everybody else. Very few, if anyone, is doing this. So one, it differentiates you. Two, it absolutely builds confidence in the person who's doing this. So it's a huge confidence builder. It makes you more bold. And a lot of this is done with young minds, people between 14 and 30, but it can be done at any age.
And Barry, so let's, from a granular perspective now, what is a profile in success? What does it look like? What is it, frankly?
So here's what it is. The young mind is going to be an author of a book called Profiles in Success. It's going to look like this. And inside this book are going to be 25 profiles of some of the most successful people in your community. So as an example, if a young mind is interested in supply chain logistics, that individual will research and just find 25 businesses or people they can interview. And through the interviewing process, they're going to ask this person, how did you get there? What did you do when you were 10, 11, 15 years old? What were you doing? I want to hear your story. And with this story, Ryan, they're going to take their phone with AI now. You're going to go on otter.ai and record the interview. And from the recording of the AI, we will construct a 12 to 1500 word profile of this story and compile those stories in a book. And with this book, your name's going to be on it as an author. The young mind is going to re-gift this book to other young minds as a philanthropic value add to help build their confidence. So in other words, this is actually a philanthropic exercise to help other young kids.
Barry, there's so much to unpack there. I love this so much. I mean, we're talking about the process of getting a young mind, really interested in other people's stories. It's putting them out there to get face to face with an individual, typically a high ranking, successful individual, and really allowing them internally to maybe think about their own career path. There's so many great advantages to this. So let's start chunking this out. And I know, as we typically do on this show, we like to identify kind of three of the biggest things that somebody needs to know about this process. What would you say those three are? And then of course we'll get into each one of them.
Number one, they are going to find 25 people in their genre or interested areas. And in other words, they're going to have to research. They're also going to have to get on the phone and call them and present an interview. Many of them, most of them will say yes to a young mind. But this is also perseverance in getting an interview. It's also going to build a network of successful people the young mind is going to be getting into. And this could also be a potential job opportunity, an internship. It could be anything like that. But the fact of the matter is, it's an action item of finding 25 businesses, having the interview, and more importantly, at the end of the day, it's going to build confidence. This is something outside of school that is being done. This is not a school project. This is a special project.
Absolutely. And two other facets of this that I know we're going to unpack here is this concept of, leveraging AI to really help with some of the, the grunt work, if you will, of writing that book. But then lastly, you mentioned the philanthropic component to all this, which is, creating value for others. And we'll get into that in a moment. Let's circle back though, and talk through the process of identifying those individuals who, how does somebody go through that process, deciding who they want to talk to? How are they going to talk to them, whether or not that's going to be potentially in person, maybe virtual? Walk me through that process and how you help those young minds.
Ideally, it's better to do this in person, ideally. But you start with the community where you live, of people in your home city. So I would start, if I live in Los Angeles, I'd be starting in Los Angeles, of energies in Los Angeles. Taking the time to get there, drive there, see them, is much more powerful than doing it on Zoom. Now, sometimes you have to do it on Zoom. But technology now has made this a lot easier to do. Back in the old days, I was taking notes. With AI, with Otter, which is right on your phone, you can tape exactly what they're saying and then download that into a chat, and chat can do 80% of it for you. Remember, AI doesn't do done, okay? You've got to do the fine points on it, but it will save a tremendous amount of time. And before you know it, you're going to be building people that are important to you in your genre, what you're interested in. If you want to be a writer, you'd be interviewing writers. You want to be involved in financial services or Wall Street, it depends on what you're interested in. Or you might not know what you want to do. You can interview a variety of people, engineers, accountants, attorneys. There's no rules on this. So the game really is taking action, interviewing successful people, using technology in AI to help you write this. And then from there, it's going to take persuasion to get someone to do an interview with you. Remember, most successful people are busy. And if they say no, which they're going to say, well, I don't have time right now, you have to be persistent to find a time to see them. They will eventually say yes. Let's be real. Not everyone's like, oh, yes, today, let's do it. No, it's going to take a planning, a calendar, and this is another process the young mind will need to go through.
All right, and the last component I want to circle back to that you mentioned is the philanthropic side of things and how this creates value. I mean, that's a big theme of what we talk about a lot on this show, is creating value for others, that it'll come back its way to you, but predominantly if you put others first, it's going to, leave a tremendous ripple effect of positivity throughout your life. So let's talk about that philanthropic side of things. Why is it just beneficial for somebody to, once they have this, the Profiles in Success book, to provide it to others?
So one huge narrative that we live by with Mag 7 is that you want to be a value creator. And in other words, there's three ways you can build value. There's material value, there's emotional value, and there's spiritual value. This is a strategy that you are a giver and creating value by taking a book and giving it to a less fortunate person, or empowering them just because, with no reciprocity. You're not looking to get something back. And this is one of the best ways to grow and to be and demonstrate leadership, is by doing something for somebody else. So as a philanthropic strategy, it really is helping you be a better leader. It's developing your confidence. It's helping you do something, again, no one else is really doing. Because why? This is hard. But it's not hard if we break it down into pieces. And that's what I can help you do, is strategize on who those 25 are, find out their phone numbers, their emails, reach out, and they're not going to know you.
I love this in so many levels, Barry. So, Barry, you had mentioned to me when we were chatting about this idea and bringing it, to everybody here on the show. You had an experience where you went through a similar exercise during your time on Wall Street. Would you care to share that story with us?
Absolutely. This was back in 1982 when I first got into Wall Street. I was a rookie. I didn't have any money. The only thing I had was a phone and my ability to work. And what I did is I identified the 10 top financial advisors in the company. And what did I do? I called them on the phone. I introduced myself to them. I said, could I just visit with you for 2 hours? And you don't even have to acknowledge me. I'll be in the corner. I just want to watch you. I just want to observe how you roll as an extremely successful person. I flew to Miami. I flew to St. Louis. I flew to Chicago. I flew to New York on my dime. And I took the best practices of what they did and I formulated my own culture. I could not be them. They were amazing. I wanted to build my own brand. By looking at other successful people, I took bits and pieces. I remember one gentleman, he never had the computer in front of him. This is 40 years ago. He always had his computer behind him because he didn't want to focus on the computer. He wanted to focus on making calls and talking to people. And for decades, I always had the computer system behind me. Now it's different. But the reality is you pick up little things and you bring them in, weave them into your life. I did this 40 years ago. Now, I did not do the book at that time. Later, I did the book, but the strategy was to identify successful people and be in front of them and see how they're doing it.
Sure, the essence of the profiles and success was very much a part of what you were doing. You just weren't creating a book, if you will. Barry, one thing I love personally so much about this is that, there are so many smart, well-educated and driven young minds out there in today's day and age. And they'll get out of college with their 4.0, be involved in all the extracurriculars and quite frankly, that doesn't leap off the page like it once used to. And to be able to sit there across the table, maybe let's say during an interview, or maybe you're just breaking the ice at that moment in an organization or with a professional that you're really interested in becoming a part of that team. Well, to be able to sit there and say, well, hey, I'd love to leave you with a copy of a book I wrote. Let's say you're an 18-year-old, at this 21-year-old, maybe at this point in time, I'd love to leave you with a copy of a book I wrote called Profiles in Success, where I had a chance to chat with 25 of the leading executives in this respective space. Well, I'll tell you what, if I'm sitting across the table, my eyebrows are getting raised after that one, because it is something that no one's doing. It is a differentiating factor between you and these other extremely talented individuals out there that are going for these sought after opportunities. I just love this so much, but I want to hear it from you, Barry. What are your key takeaways? If you really had to drive this point home to a young mind as to why they should be thinking about leveraging this idea of a profile in success, what would be your key takeaways?
Well, number one, it feels really good to do something that no one else is doing and to play offense and to learn about other successful, wildly successful people who are doing it. So one, you get into a room with a successful individual. Two, you're going to share this wisdom with other young people who need to be empowered. And that's demonstrating leadership as a positive mindset. This helps do that. On top of all of that, you're probably going to make 2 or 3 connections of people you have never met. In turn, could lead to an internship or even a job opportunity. So many, many facets to this. I would love to help anyone with this. If this is an idea that you want to go down and try, I've done it numerous times, but this is one of the tactics in my book, Winning the Game of Life, the 7 lessons you never learn in school, 18 tactics. This is one of the 18 tactics.
Well, Barry, let's pull that thread for a hot second. I mean, we've talked about a lot of these tactics on this podcast series. Of course, not all of them, which is what makes your book so valuable. And of course, future conversations that we'll have. But look, for anybody out there that, let's say they had a chance to check out today's episode or any of our past content and any of these lessons that folks never learned in school are really resonating with them and they see the value in those lessons, what would be the best way somebody could reach out to you and your team at Mag 7 and just open up a dialogue, for lack of a better
So
expression?
first of all, the phone number is 818-427-6109. And my email address is Barry, Barry, at mag7consultants.com. And check out our website. The website is mag7consultants.com. So we'd love to chat with you, but this is one of those tools that unfortunately many people do not do. But if you decide to do this, it will elevate you to another level.
It takes effort, but it's worth it. I'll tell you that much. So, Barry, really appreciate you and your valuable time here today. A lot of great stuff we left on the table for folks. Looking forward to seeing you again here sometime soon.
Ryan, thank you for all your energy, buddy. See you soon.
Of course. And folks, look, we're going to take a final moment, as we always do on this show, and thank you for making us a part of your day. If you enjoyed today's discussion, if you learned a thing or two, make sure you hit that subscribe button on whichever platform you checked us out on today so that you don't miss out on future conversations and, of course, those future lessons you never learned in school. But look, for Barry, I'm Ryan. We're going to go ahead and say so long now. But once again, we appreciate you stopping by and being with us today on Game Changers.